Asterisk Story 1, The Frozen Broadcast. The CB radio had been broadcasting my own death for the last 43 miles. Not predictions, not threats. A play-by-play of what was happening to me right now, except the voice described events that hadn't occurred yet. Robert Hayes applies the Jake brake too late, the voice said, calm as a weather report. The Kenworth's rear tandems break loose at mile marker 189. He overcorrects. The black ice doesn't forgive. I was at mile marker 176, and my hands went slick on the wheel. I'd picked up the transmission north of Coldfoot, 300 miles into the Dalton Highway's frozen spine. February in Alaska meant 20 hours of darkness and temperatures that turned spit to ice before it hit the ground. I was hauling drilling equipment to Deadhorse, a run I'd made 96 times in 8 years. The Dalton wasn't the deadliest ice road because of its length or its grades. It was deadliest because it was lonely. 414 miles where you might not see another soul, where help could be 10 hours away, where mistakes didn't just cost you, they erased you. The voice continued. Male, baritone, professional, like a dispatcher who'd seen everything and felt nothing. The impact splits the fuel tank. Hayes survives the initial crash. He's conscious for what comes next. I grabbed the CB handset, my Carhartt glove making it awkward. This is Nighthawk 7 to anyone on this channel. Identify yourself. Over. Static, then. Hayes exits the cab. His right leg is fractured in 2 places. The femur is visible through his Carhartt work pants. He doesn't feel it yet. Shock is merciful that way. The cold up here wasn't like cold anywhere else. At minus 47 degrees, it was a physical presence, a pressure that found every gap in your clothing, every shallow breath. My reefer unit was hauling inert cargo, so the truck was silent except for the diesel engine's growl and the crunch of studded tires on ice. The northern lights painted the sky in sickly greens and purples, making the empty landscape look alien, wrong. "I'm not crashing," I said into the CB. "I'm not fucking crashing." The wolves find him at 2:47 a.m. They've been following the scent of diesel and blood for 6 miles. Hayes tries to crawl back to the cab, but his hands have frozen to the ice. The wolves start with his extremities. My speedometer read 51. Safe for conditions, maybe too safe. I'd been driving for 11 hours straight, and the deadline for Deadhorse was tight. Every minute counted when you were burning expensive fuel and losing money to the clock. But mile marker 189 was coming up, and the broadcast had been specific. I slowed to 35, my eyes scanning the road ahead. The headlights cut through darkness thick as wool, catching millions of ice crystals suspended in the air. Diamond dust, they called it, beautiful and blinding. Mile marker 186, the CB crackled. Hayes should have listened to the transmission. He slows down, he thinks he's being careful, but the ice doesn't care about careful. My heart was hammering now, my breath coming fast enough to fog the windshield. I cranked the defrost higher. The temperature gauge read minus 42 outside. Inside the cab, with the heater maxed out, it was maybe 60 degrees. My thermos of coffee had gone cold 2 hours ago. Mile marker 187. The caribou comes from his left. A bull 800 pounds running from something Hayes can't see. It's on the road before Hayes can process movement. He swerves right. The Kenworth's front wheels catch a pressure ridge. I was crawling now, doing 23, my eyes locked on the road. Nothing. Empty tundra stretching to a horizon I couldn't see. The northern lights were brighter now, pulsing like something alive, casting shadows that moved wrong. Mile marker 188. The caribou exploded onto the road from the left. I didn't think. My hands yanked the wheel right. The movement was instinctive muscle memory from 8 years of avoiding moose and caribou and the occasional grizzly. But my conscious brain, the part that knew about black ice and physics and the 34,000 pounds I was hauling, that part screamed too late. The Kenworth's rear end swung left. I felt it in my spine, that sickening loss of traction, the moment when the road stops being solid and becomes a suggestion. I turned into the skid, my foot off the accelerator, no brakes, no sudden movements. Everything they teach you in defensive driving. The truck straightened. The caribou bounded away into the darkness. My heart was trying to punch through my ribs. I was still on the road, still moving, still alive. Close, the CB said, but that wasn't it. Mile marker 189 appeared in my headlights. I was past it, nothing had happened. The broadcast was wrong, or I'd changed it, or... The ice beneath my front wheels made a sound like a rifle shot. The Kenworth dropped 6 inches as the road surf. Ace gave way. Not black ice. A compression crack, the kind that forms when temperatures drop 50 degrees in 3 hours, when the permafrost beneath shifts, when the road literally tears itself apart. I felt the steering wheel go light in my hands. The truck was sliding now, all 18 wheels on a surface slicker than water. The driver's side was lower than the passenger side. We were tilting. I hit the Jake brake, wrong move. Exactly the wrong move, but panic makes you stupid. The truck's rear tandems broke loose. We were jackknifing now, the trailer swinging around like it wanted to pass me. I could see it in the passenger mirror, the reefer unit sliding into my peripheral vision, tons of steel and drilling equipment trying to occupy the same space as the cab. The Kenworth left the road at 41 degrees, which the CB helpfully informed me 3 seconds before impact. The crash was loud and long and full of sounds I'll hear until I die. Metal tearing, glass shattering, my own voice screaming. The world tilted and rolled, and I was inside a paint can being shaken by a giant. My seatbelt locked so hard I felt ribs crack. The windshield starred, then disappeared in a spray of safety glass. Cold air rushed in like a physical blow. Then stillness. The engine was dead. The headlights were dead. The only light came from the northern lights and the small emergency LEDs on the dash. I was alive, hanging at an angle in the seat, but alive. My chest burned where the seatbelt had caught me. When I touched my face, my glove came away dark with blood. The CB was still working. It crackled to life. Hayes exits the cab. His right leg is fractured in 2 places. "Fuck you," I whispered. I tried my right leg. Pain exploded up my thigh, white-hot and all-consuming. I looked down. My femur was visible through a tear in my Carhartt work pants. White bone against red meat. I could see it flex slightly when I tried to move. The shock was already fading, adrenaline losing its fight against reality. "He doesn't feel it yet," the CB said. "Shock is merciful that way." I laughed. It came out as a sob. The door was jammed. The frame had buckled. I hit the window with my elbow and it shattered. More cold air, more diamond dust. I pulled myself through, dragging my broken leg, leaving a trail of blood on white snow that looked black under the northern lights. The cold hit me like a wall, -47 without wind chill. With wind, which was now gusting at 30 miles per hour, it was somewhere around -70. The kind of cold that stops being temperature and becomes a countdown. I had minutes before the exposed skin on my face began to freeze. Maybe 10 minutes before the shivering stopped and hypothermia's final, drowsy stage began. The CB was still broadcasting from inside the wrecked cab. Hayes tries to crawl back, but his hands have frozen to the ice. I needed to get back inside. The cab was shelter. There were emergency supplies, flares, a sleeping bag rated to -30, my satellite phone. I put my hands on the ice to push myself up. They stuck, not metaphorically. The moisture on my gloves flash froze to the ice beneath, bonding skin and fabric to the road in seconds. I pulled, my gloves started to tear. I could feel skin coming with them. The wolves find him at 2:47 a.m. I checked my watch. The crystal was cracked, but it still worked. 2:31 a.m. 16 minutes. I could see my breath crystallizing in the air, falling like snow. My broken leg had gone numb, which was bad. Numbness meant the cold was winning. I pulled harder at my hands. The left glove tore free, taking skin from 3 fingers. The right glove held fast. Movement in the darkness, eyes reflecting the northern lights, green and gold and hungry. Wolves hunt the Dalton in winter, following the caribou herds. A pack can have 20 members, enough to bring down a moose, enough to strip a man to bones in under an hour. I counted 6 sets of eyes, then 9, then 12. The CB crackled. They start with his extremities. I finally tore my right hand free. 3 fingers were bleeding, the skin hanging in strips. I dragged myself toward the cab, my broken leg leaving a groove in the snow. The wolves watched. They weren't in a hurry. They could smell the blood, the fear, the dying. I reached the cab, pulled myself through the broken window, found the satellite phone. No signal. We were in a valley, the mountains blocking line of sight to the satellites. I'd need to get higher or wait until the satellite's orbit brought them overhead. Hours, maybe. The CB hissed. Hayes doesn't make it to dawn, but he's still broadcasting at 6:15 a.m., still describing what's happening to him, still warning the next driver. I grabbed the CB handset with my mangled hand. Who the fuck are you? Static, then. This is Nighthawk 7. I'm at mile marker 176, and my CB's been broadcasting my own death for the last 43 miles. If anyone can hear this, stay off the Dalton. The ice isn't just frozen water anymore. It remembers, it records, and it plays back. My own voice from hours ago, when I'd first heard the transmission. The wolves were closer now. I could see them in what remained of my side mirror, closing the circle, patient. I looked at the CB, at the red transmission light glowing steady. I picked up the handset. Robert Hayes applies the Jake brake too late, I said. My voice was calm, professional, like I was describing something that happened to someone else. The wolves began to howl. Asterisk story 2, the breathing cargo. The manifest said the containers held medical supplies, but medical supplies don't breathe in synchronized rhythm at 4 breaths per minute. Patricia Sullivan had checked 16 times in the last 2 hours, standing in the 40 below cold, listening to her reefer unit inhale and exhale with the patience of something much larger than human. The condensation forming on the container doors wasn't freezing like it should. It was warm. I'd been hauling specialized cargo for Prudhoe Bay for 6 years, and I knew what cold storage was supposed to sound like. Compressors cycling, coolant flowing, fans circulating air to keep everything at exactly -20 Celsius. This wasn't that. This was organic, alive. The pickup had been routine. Anchorage to Deadhorse, a straight shot up the Dalton that should take 2 days with proper rest stops. The cargo was flagged medical, which usually meant blood products, organs for transplant, research specimens. The kind of stuff that needed temperature control and couldn't be bumped around. I'd hauled it dozens of times. But this time, the loading crew at the Anchorage facility wouldn't meet my eyes. The foreman, a guy named Stevens who usually joked about my coffee addiction, handed me the manifest and left without a word. The containers were already loaded when I arrived, sealed with locks I didn't recognize. Heavy locks. The kind that weren't about keeping thieves out. They were about keeping something in. I should have refused the load right there. But the pay was triple rate, hazard bonus included, and I'd just gotten divorce papers that came with alimony numbers that made my stomach hurt. Money makes you stupid. Desperation makes you blind. The breathing started somewhere around Fairbanks, 200 miles into the run. I'd stopped to check the reefer unit's temperature readout, and that's when I heard it. Long, slow inhalations. Pauses that lasted 30 seconds. Then exhalations that fogged the air despite the unit supposedly running cold. I put my hand on the container door. It was warm, not hot, but body temperature warm. The metal should have been cold enough to freeze skin on contact. The thing inside breathed again. I felt it through the metal, felt the expansion, the contraction, felt something that might have been a heartbeat, too slow and too deep to be human. My CB radio was silent. No chatter from other drivers, no check-ins from dispatch. The Dalton gets like that sometimes, especially at night. You're alone in a way that's hard to explain to people who have never driven it. Alone with the darkness and the cold and the knowledge that if something goes wrong, you might not be found until spring. I got back in the cab and drove. What else could I do? I was under contract, the cargo was sealed, and I needed the money. Mile marker 287. The breathing changed. It wasn't synchronized anymore. It was conversation. One container would inhale, then another would respond. Then a third, a fourth, overlapping, creating rhythms that almost sounded like words. Deep, resonant words in a language that hurt my teeth to hear. I stopped the truck, grabbed my flashlight, walked to the back of the trailer. 5 containers, all of them warm, all of them breathing. The condensation on the doors had formed patterns now, frost crystals arranging themselves into shapes that looked deliberately wrong. Spirals that rotated the wrong direction. Geometric forms that had too many angles. Faces that weren't quite faces. Container 3's lock was different from the others. Newer, shinier. I leaned close and I could smell something through the sealed door. Copper. Salt. The distinct smell of a body under stress, that chemical signature of fear, sweat, and adrenaline. Someone was in there. "Hello," I said. My voice sounded small against the wind and the endless dark. The breathing stopped, all 5 containers simultaneously silent. Then container 3 answered, "Let me out." The voice was wrong. Too many tones at once, like a chorus trying to harmonize but missing by crucial intervals. It made my sinuses ache and my vision swim. "Who are you?" I managed. "I'm Patricia Sullivan. I'm a truck driver. I picked up cargo in Anchorage and I think something's wrong with the containers. I think there's someone inside them. Can you let me out?" My name's my vo. Ice, my exact words from 30 seconds ago, played back with perfect fidelity except for that harmonic distortion. That sense of something mimicking human speech without understanding what made it human. I ran to the cab, got the satellite phone, called dispatch. A man answered, professional, bored, dispatch. "This is Patricia Sullivan, Unit 41, hauling north on the Dalton. I've got a situation with my cargo. The containers are exhibiting unusual thermal signatures and audio phenomena. I need guidance on." "A hold, please." Silence, then, "I'm Patricia Sullivan. I'm a truck driver. I picked up cargo in Anchorage and I think something's wrong with the containers." My voice again, the same harmonic wrongness. I killed the call, stared at the phone, tried again. Same result. Every number I called, every person who answered, they all became me after a few seconds, all speaking my words back to me with that crystalline wrongness that made my hands shake. The containers were breathing again, but now they were breathing in my rhythm. My current rhythm matching me inhale for inhale, exhale for exhale. I got in the cab and drove, foot hard on the accelerator, pushing 60 on ice that should have been taken at 30. I didn't care. I needed off this road. I needed civilization, witnesses, anyone who could confirm I wasn't losing my mind. The containers started screaming at mile marker 312. Not human screams. These were sounds that came from deeper places, from things with different vocal apparatus, from creatures that used air and vocal cords in ways biology hadn't intended. They rose and fell in waves, creating harmonics that made the trailer shake and my vision blur and my nose start bleeding. I could feel it in my chest, the vibrations, matching my heartbeat, then syncing with it, then dragging it to match their rhythm instead. My heart was beating too slow. 4 beats per minute, the same rate as the breathing. My hands were numb on the wheel. My thoughts were becoming sluggish, syrupy. I bit my tongue hard enough to taste blood, using pain to stay present. The road ahead was empty, dark. The headlights showed nothing but white ice and darkness beyond. But in my mirrors, I could see the trailer, could see frost forming on its exterior now, despite the breathing warmth. The frost was spreading in patterns, creating shapes that moved and shifted and watched me with something that wasn't eyes but served the same purpose. I tried to unhook the trailer, pull the release, drop the cargo, drive away. But when I stopped and got out, I couldn't find the 5th wheel release. It should have been right there, the same place it always was. But my hands passed through empty air where the lever should have been. The trailer was attached to the cab in a way that was no longer mechanical. Container 3's door was open. Just open, the lock was still in place, untouched. But the door had swung wide and inside. Inside was me. Not a reflection, not a twin. It was me, Patricia Sullivan, sitting in a truck driver's seat that didn't exist, hands on a steering wheel made of frost and darkness, staring ahead at a road I couldn't see. She was breathing, 4 breaths per minute, her chest rising and falling with mechanical precision. As I watched, she turned her head, looked at me, smiled with a mouth that had too many teeth. "You're late," she said. "We've been driving your route for 3 days now. It takes time to get the breathing right, to match the heartbeat, to learn how to be you, but we're almost done. One more night and the transfer will be complete." I backed away. She kept smiling. "You don't need to be afraid," she continued. "You'll still exist. You'll be in here with us, driving forever, the perfect route, never stopping, never sleeping, never dying, just driving and breathing and becoming." I ran to the cab, started the engine. The thing wearing my face was still smiling from container 3. I drove, I don't know for how long. The mile markers stopped making sense. I'd see 315, then 287, then 403, then 201. The road was looping, folding back on itself, or reality was coming apart at the seams. My hands didn't look right anymore. The skin was too smooth. The fingerprints were fading. When I breathed, I counted 4 breaths per minute. I tried to fight it, forced myself to breathe faster. But my lungs wouldn't cooperate. They were sinking to something else's rhythm now, something that lived in the containers and on the road and in the spaces between heartbeats. The CB crackled. "This is Nighthawk 17 to all traffic on the Dalton. I've got a breakdown at mile marker 341. Anyone in the area, I could use a hand." I grabbed the handset. "This is Sullivan, Unit 41. I'm near your position. What's your situation?" "Oh, thank God. I've got a strange cargo situation. Medical supplies, but they're breathing. I know how that sounds, but—" "I'm coming," I said. "Stay with your TR." "Lux, I'm coming." I found him at mile marker 341. Young guy, maybe 25. His truck was pulled over, reefer unit running. He looked relieved when I stopped. "You have no idea how glad I am to see you," he said. "This cargo has been making sounds, and I think the temperature regulation is failing, and—" I smiled. I could feel how wrong my smile was, how many teeth it had, how it didn't quite fit my face anymore. "Let me help you," I said. "Just open the container doors. It's easier to diagnose from inside." He looked at me, really looked at me. I saw the moment he noticed. The moment he saw that my chest was rising and falling 4 times per minute, that my hands were too smooth, that my eyes didn't blink often enough. He ran. I didn't chase him, didn't need to. His cargo was already breathing, already learning, already becoming. I got back in my cab. My cab, was it still mine? The seats felt wrong. The steering wheel felt organic. The dashboard was growing patterns in the dust, the same spirals and wrong-angled shapes. I drive north. I drive south. The direction doesn't matter anymore. The Dalton is a loop now, an infinite stretch of ice and darkness where trucks drive forever and the cargo learns to breathe and new drivers stop to help and become part of the route. If you see a reefer unit on the Dalton Highway and you hear breathing that syncs with your heartbeat, don't stop. Don't offer help. Don't answer the CB when my voice calls out asking for assistance. I'm still driving. We're all still driving. The cargo is still learning. Asterisk Story 3, the exit that follows. Marcus Chen took exit 47 to avoid a pileup at 3:19 a.m., and exit 47 followed him for the next 200 miles, appearing on his right exactly every 11 minutes regardless of speed, direction, or physical possibility. The sign was always identical. Reflective green letters reading Exit 47 Services Gas Food with an arrow pointing right. The problem was that the Dalton Highway didn't have exit numbers. It didn't have exits at all. I'd been running my own freight company for 4 years, small operation, just me and 2 other drivers. This run was supposed to be simple. Prefab housing components from Fairbanks to a mining operation near Galbraith Lake. Light cargo, good weather for March, which meant only -20 and clear skies instead of the usual blizzard conditions. The pileup wasn't my fault. 5 vehicles tangled across both lanes, rescue crews cutting someone out of a Suburban. I'd pulled over, checked with the state troopers, and they'd waved me past using the shoulder. That's when I saw it. Exit 47 off to my right, a gravel spur that shouldn't exist. I didn't take it. I drove past on the shoulder, got back on the highway, and continued north. 11 minutes later, I saw it again. Same sign, same placement, same gravel ramp curving off into darkness. I checked my GPS. Nothing. The mapping system showed unbroken highway, no exits, no services for another 87 miles. I radioed to my other driver, Johnson, who was running 4 hours behind me. "You seeing anything weird with road signs tonight?" "Static, then define weird." "Exit numbers, green signs, services." "Chen, the Dalton doesn't have exits. You feeling okay?" "Yeah," I said, "just tired." I wasn't tired. I'd had 8 hours of sleep in Fairbanks and 2 thermoses of coffee. My mind was sharp. My attention was focused. And I could see exit 47 appearing again in my headlights 11 minutes after the last sighting. Third time, same sign, but now I could see buildings down the exit ramp, a gas station, a diner, lights on, warm yellow against the darkness. Impossible, but there. I drove past. My GPS showed my position as accurate. I was on the Dalton, heading north, making good time. No exits, no buildings, nothing but empty tundra. 11 minutes later, exit 47 appeared on my left. That got my attention. The sign was facing me now, like I'd somehow passed it, and it was showing me what I'd missed. The arrow pointed left across the highway, which made no sense. Exits didn't cross highways. Signs didn't reorient themselves. I stopped the truck, got out. The cold hit me like a fist, but I needed to see this clearly, needed to confirm I wasn't hallucinating. The sign was real. Solid aluminum and reflective sheeting, regulation design. The exit ramp was real, gravel and packed snow curving away into the darkness. I could see tire tracks on it. Fresh tracks, maybe an hour old. I walked to the ramp's entrance. Down below, maybe half a mile away, I could see the gas station. It was a standard Arctic truck stop design. Low buildings, heavy insulation, fuel pumps protected by wind barriers, lights in every window. A truck was parked at the pumps. A Peterbilt with a reefer unit, same model as mine. My truck, my license plate, my company logo on the door. I was down there, fueling up. I could see myself moving around the truck, checking the tires, scraping ice off the mirrors. I ran back to my truck. It was still here, still running, still real. But I was also down there. Exit 47 appeared again, now behind me, the sign reversed. The arrow pointed back the way I'd come. I drove fast, pushing 70 on ice that should have been taken at 40. The exit didn't appear for 15 minutes. I started to relax. Then I realized why. I'd driven 11 miles in 15 minutes. Exit 47 appeared exactly on schedule, but now the sign was bigger, 8 feet tall instead of 6. The letters were larger, more urgent. Exit 47 services last chance, the new text read. I didn't stop. 11 minutes later, the sign was now 12 feet tall. The exit ramp was wider, graded and maintained, looking more official than before. Down below, the gas station had grown. More pumps, more buildings, a whole service complex that shouldn't exist and definitely hadn't existed the last time I'd seen it. 3 of my trucks were parked down there now. 11 minutes later, the sign was 20 feet tall. It had been joined by other signs, smaller ones arrayed along the shoulder. Last exit for 300 miles. Fuel, food, rest. Don't miss this exit. The service complex was a town now. I could see streets, houses, dozens of trucks parked in neat rows. People moving between buildings, all of them me. Every single person was Marcus Chen, wearing my clothes, moving with my gait, living some life I wasn't living. I grabbed my satellite phone, called my wife in Fairbanks. She answered on the second ring. Marcus, it's 4 a.m. Are you okay? Listen to me carefully. I need you to confirm something. Do you remember me leaving Fairbanks yesterday? Of course, you left at 7 p.m. You called me at 9 to say you'd made it past Livengood. What else did I say? That you'd take exit 47 if you needed rest. That there was a good truck stop there. You stop there every run. My hands went cold. Sarah, the Dalton doesn't have exits. Silence, then, Marcus, we've been married for 9 years. You've been running the Dalton for 12. Exit 47 is where you always stop. It's where we met. I was working the diner there when your truck broke down in 2011. Sarah, listen to me. Are you coming home? The kids miss you. Marcus Jr. has been asking when you'll take him up to exit 47 again. He loves the arcade there. I hung up, stared at the phone. We didn't have kids. We'd been trying, but Sarah couldn't carry to term. 3 miscarriages. It was the thing we didn't talk about. Exit 47 appeared again. The sign was now 30 feet tall, visible from miles away, lit up like a billboard. The message had changed. Exit 47, come home, MARCUS. Your family is waiting. Down below, I could see them. Sarah, 2 kids, a boy and a girl, maybe 8 and 6. They were standing outside the diner, waving at me. The boy looked like me. The girl had Sarah's smile. 11 minutes later, the sign was on both sides of the highway now, twin 40-foot structures bracketing the road, impossible to miss. The exit had become an overpass, the kind you'd see on an interstate, not a remote ice road. The ramp split both directions, forcing a choice. The town had become a city. I could see high-rises in the distance, lit windows stretching up into the night sky. Thousands of trucks, millions of people, all of them me, all of them living lives I'd never lived, making choices I'd never made, existing in possibilities I'd rejected or missed or never knew about. I saw myself as a doctor, as a teacher, as a mechanic, as a criminal, as a homeless man, as a millionaire, as a father, as a corpse. Every version of Marcus Chen that could have existed did exist. Down there in the place exit 47 led. 11 minutes later, the highway was gone. There was only the exit now. The main road had become the ramp, curving down whether I wanted it to or not. My steering wheel had locked. The truck was following the curve, descending into the city of me. I tried the brakes, they didn't respond. I tried to open the door, it wouldn't budge. I was a passenger now, being delivered to my destination. The city grew around me. Buildings rose on both sides. The streets were full of traffic, all trucks, all identical to mine. The drivers waved as I passed. Every face was mine. I ended up at a truck stop that looked right. The kind of place you'd expect on a northern highway. Pumps, diner, repair bays, nothing strange, nothing wrong. Except everyone was me. The attendant who filled my tank was me at 19, before I'd gotten my CDL. The cook in the diner was me at 35, 20 pounds heavier, wedding ring on the wrong hand. The mechanic was me at 60, weathered and scarred from decades of work I hadn't done yet. I sat in a booth in the diner. Another me brought coffee. Older me, maybe 50, he had kind eyes. "First time coming in?" he asked. "I didn't choose this." "Then, one of us did. Exit 47 chooses. But you'll like it here. Every choice you could have made, you can make now. Every road you didn't take, you can take. Every life you didn't live, you can live." "I want to leave." He smiled sadly. "That's one of the choices. You can leave, take the exit back to the highway, but you'll take exit 47 again 11 minutes later. You'll always take exit 47. It's the exit that goes home, and everyone eventually wants to go home." I ran to my truck, fired the engine, found the exit back to the highway. It was clearly marked. Exit 47 returned to Dalton Highway. I took it. The ramp curved up and around. My GPS showed me rejoining the main road at mile marker 276. I'd lost time somehow. It should have been 4:30 a.m. My clock read 6:15 a.m. I drove, watched the clock. At 6:26 a.m., exactly 11 minutes later, exit 47 appeared on my right. I drove past. At 6:37 a.m., it appeared again. I've been driving for 6 years now. Real time, highway time. The trip that should have taken 2 days has become infinite. I pass exit 47 every 11 minutes. Sometimes I take it. Sometimes I need to see my family, even if they're not real. Sometimes I need to be the versions of myself I never became. Sometimes I stay on the highway, but the exit always comes back. Johnson found my truck 2 weeks after I disappeared. It was parked at mile marker 276, engine cold, cargo intact. No sign of me, no sign of struggle. He took over the company, married my wife, raised kids that look like me but aren't mine. I know this because I see him at exit 47 sometimes. He started taking it 3 years ago, 11 minutes at a time. The exit is patient. The exit always waits. If you see exit 47 on a highway that doesn't have exits, don't take it the first time. Don't take it the second time. Don't take it the third time either. Eventually, you won't have a choice. Asterisk story 4, the weight of watching. Diane Foster's load weight increased by 47 pounds every time she checked the scales, and she'd checked 17 times since leaving Deadhorse because her mirrors showed people standing in her empty trailer even though she was hauling nothing but air. The people never moved. They just stood there, watching her through the gap between the trailer doors, their eyes reflecting her taillights in colors that didn't exist. I deadheaded out of Prudhoe Bay, which meant no cargo, no revenue, just driving empty back to Fairbanks to pick up my next load. 28 years driving truck, and deadheading was the worst part. You burned fuel and made nothing. You were a zero moving through space, economically invisible. But my weight kept increasing. At the Deadhorse scale, I'd weighed 32,400 pounds. Just the truck and trailer empty. Standard. At Coldfoot, 200 miles south, I'd weighed 32,447 pounds. 47 pounds that shouldn't exist. I'd stopped and checked the trailer. Empty, completely empty. I could see from one end to the other 53 feet of aluminum and air, nothing inside. But when I looked in the mirrors before climbing back in the cab, I saw them. 3 people standing in the trailer, just standing there evenly spaced, facing forward toward the cab, facing me. I spun around. The trailer was empty. I looked in the mirror, 3 people, clear as day. A man in coveralls, a woman in a parka, a child in a red coat. I walked back to the trailer, looked inside, nothing. Mirror, 3 people. I got back on the road. What else could I do? Mirrors lie sometimes. Light plays tricks in the Arctic. Reflections catch things that aren't there. I'd been driving for 16 hours. Fatigue makes you see things. But the weight didn't lie. At Weissman, I hit the portable scales the DOT had set up for winter inspections. The inspector was a guy named Harding, someone I'd known for years. Good guy, fair. Diane, he said, checking his readout. You're showing 32,494. You picking up weight somehow. I'm empty, I said. You can check. He did walk the length of the trailer with his flashlight, came back shaking his head. Nothing in there, scales might be miscalibrated. Cold plays hell with the sensors. In my mirror behind Harding, I could see them. Not 3 people anymore. 7. They'd multiplied. 4 men, 2 women, 1 child, all standing in the empty trailer, all watching. You okay, Diane? You look pale. Just tired, I said. I weighed again 50 miles south. 32,588 pounds. The weight was increasing exponentially now. 94 pounds added in 50 miles. The mirrors showed 12 people. I pulled over, got out, stood at the back of the trailer and stared at the mirrors mounted on both sides. The people were clearer now. I could see details. The man in coveralls had a name tag, SDEV. The woman in the parka had frost in her hair. The child in the red coat was missing her left hand. I could see their breath, little puffs of condensation in the cold. They were breathing, they were real, but only in the mirrors. I checked my eyes. No, I was looking at the right place. The trailer behind me was empty. The mirrors on my truck showed it full of people. One of them, Steve in the coveralls, raised his hand and waved. I ran to the cab, locked the doors. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely grip the wheel. The CB crackled. Southbound Freightliner at mile marker 178, you've got something wrong with your trailer doors. They're opening. I checked the trailer camera I'd installed last year. The doors were closed, sealed, locked. Negative, I said into the CB. Doors are secured. Lady, I'm looking right at them. They're wide open. You're gonna lose whatever you're hauling. I checked the camera again. Doors closed. I looked in my mirror. The doors were open, swinging in the wind, and the people were climbing out. They dropped to the road surface and started walking. South, same direction I was heading. They walked at exactly the same speed I was driving, 38 miles per hour. When I sped up to 45, they sped up. When I slowed to 30, so did they. They were tethered to me somehow, connected. At Fairbanks, I hit the commercial scales. The operator was someone I didn't know. Young woman, maybe 25. She looked at her readout and frowned. Ma'am, you're showing 33,216 pounds. Your registration says empty weight should be 32.4. You're over. By how much? 816 pounds. I checked my mirror. I couldn't count them anymore. They filled the road behind me, a crowd of maybe 50 people, all walking in perfect synchronization with my truck, all watching me. I need to unload, I said. Ma'am, you're not showing any cargo. I know, but I need to unload anyway. She looked at me like I was crazy. Maybe I was, but she let me pull onto a side lot to inspect the trailer. I opened the doors, empty. The mirrors showed 100 people packed inside, shoulder to shoulder, silent, watching. I tried to weigh myself. Personal scale, the kind drivers use to stay under physical requirements. I'd weighed 153 pounds yesterday. Today, 161. 8 pounds in one day without eating. I looked at my reflection in the side mirror. There was someone standing behind me, a young man in a Carhartt jacket. He looked familiar. I turned around, nothing there. Mirror, he was right behind me, close enough to touch. Tommy, I whispered. Tommy Chen, I'd killed him, not murdered him, but killed him all the same. 3 years ago, I'd been running the Dalton southbound in whiteout conditions. He'd been running northbound. We'd both been going too fast. We'd passed each other on a curve, and my trailer had kicked up enough snow to blind him for 3 seconds. 3 seconds was all it took. He'd left the road at 71 miles per hour. The truck had rolled 6 times. They'd found him 3 days later after the storm cleared. I'd never been charged, weather conditions, mutual fault, act of God. But I'd killed him. The man in my mirror mouthed words I couldn't hear. Then he pointed behind me at the crowd. I looked, recognized another face. Jennifer Park. She'd frozen to death in a broken-down truck 4 years ago. I'd passed her on the road, seen her hazards, but I'd been running late and I'd figured someone else would stop. Someone else didn't. She died alone, 30 feet from the road, trying to walk to the next truck stop. Another face. David Kowalski. Heart attack at a rest stop. I'd been parked 3 spaces away, but I'd had my headphones in listening to an audiobook. By the time anyone found him, it was too late. Another Sarah Vega, suicide. I'd seen the signs, the depression. The way she talked about the road like it was swallowing her. I'd meant to check on her. I'd been busy. She'd driven her truck off the Yukon River Bridge 2 weeks later. They were all there, every driver I'd failed. Every person I could have saved but didn't. Every moment of inaction that had led to someone's death. And they were getting on my truck. The weight at Nenana was 34,100 pounds. 1,700 pounds of guilt, of failure, of the weight of watching people die and doing nothing. The mirrors showed them packed 3 deep now, sitting on the trailer floor, standing on the walls, hanging from the ceiling, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. I couldn't see the road anymore. My mirrors were full of the dead. I tried covering the mirrors, broke them off with a hammer, but I could still feel them, feel the weight increasing, feel the trailer sagging on its suspension, feel the fifth wheel connections straining. At North Pole, Alaska, my weight was 36,000 pounds. The axles were screaming. The tires were bulging. The trailer was riding so low the undercarriage was sparking on the road. The dot pulled me over. "Ma'am, you're going to have to redistribute your load. You're overweight on your rear tandems." "I'm empty." The inspector looked in the trailer. "You're right, weird, scales must be broken. Sorry for the delay." In the glass of the dot building, I saw them all. Thousands of people, covering my truck like insects, weighing it down, pulling it toward the earth. I made it to my yard in Fairbanks, tried to unhook the trailer. The fifth wheel release wouldn't budge. I put all my weight on it. The lever snapped. The trailer was part of the truck now, permanently attached. I went home, tried to sleep, woke up at 2 a.m. with my scale reading 179 pounds. I hadn't eaten, hadn't drunk anything, but I was gaining weight from the inside. They were in me now, all the people I'd failed, all the weight of watching and doing nothing. They were adding themselves to my mass, my density, my gravity. I tried to call someone. My phone was too heavy to lift. 8 pounds for a device that should weigh 6 ounces. I looked in my bathroom mirror. My reflection was crowded. Faces behind my face, bodies behind my body, all of them watching me with my own eyes. I went back to the truck. It was the only place that made sense anymore. I was a driver, driver's drive. The truck weighed 42,000 pounds now. 12,000 pounds of the dead and the dying and the moments I should have acted but didn't. I drove anyway. The Dalton doesn't care about weight limits. The ice doesn't care about guilt. The road accepts everything. I'm still driving. My weight increases every day. Every person I pass. Every truck I see broken down. Every driver I could help but don't because I'm too heavy now, too slow, too weighed down by the mass of my failures. They keep adding themselves to my trailer, to my body, to my soul. The last time I weighed myself, the scale broke. The last time I weighed my truck, the scale read error, overload. But I can still see them in the mirrors, still feel them in every turn, every break, every mile. The weight of watching is infinite. The weight of doing nothing never stops growing. If you see a freightliner on the Dalton, riding low, sparking on the road, barely moving forward, that's me. That's Diane Foster carrying the weight of everyone she failed. Don't stop to help, I'm too heavy now. I'll only add you to the load. Asterisk Story 5, The Road That Remembers. The asphalt under Kevin Morrison's tires was skin, and it had been skin for the last 93 miles, warm and textured and responding to pressure with small movements that felt like breathing beneath his wheels. The road was alive. The road had always been alive. He'd just never noticed until it started bleeding. I'd hit the moose at mile marker 143. Not a collision, an execution. The animal had been standing in the middle of the road, and I'd been doing 67 in a 55 zone because I was running 4 hours behind schedule, and my dispatcher was breathing down my neck about delivery times. The moose hadn't moved, just stood there, staring at me with eyes that caught my headlights and threw them back in accusatory gold. I'd had time to brake, time to swerve, time to do something other than what I did. I was tired. I was angry. I was thinking about my ex-wife and the child support payment I just missed and the way my dispatcher had talked to me like I was incompetent. I hit the moose at 58 miles per hour. 1,300 pounds of animal met 54,000 pounds of truck and cargo. The moose lost. The impact drove it under my front axle, and I felt the sickening series of bumps as 18 wheels found flesh and bone. I should have stopped, should have called it in, should have done the right thing. I kept driving. The blood started at mile marker 147. Just a streak at first, dark against the asphalt, running parallel to the yellow line. Then more, streaks became streams, streams became rivers. By mile marker 150, the road was weeping. I tried to tell myself it was the moose, blood from the undercarriage dripping onto the pavement, spreading, except the blood was ahead of me. I was driving toward it, not away from it, and there was too much. Gallons, hundreds of gallons, more blood than one moose could hold. The road was bleeding from somewhere deep beneath its surface. At mile marker 156, I felt the road's surface change. Rougher, warmer. I checked the external temperature gauge, -38, but I could feel heat rising through the floor of the cab, body temperature heat. I pulled over, got out, touched the road with my glove. It was warm, soft. When I pressed down, it gave slightly, the way skin gives when you press a fingertip into your palm. I pulled my glove off, touched the road with bare skin. It was skin. I could feel the texture, the pores, the fine hairs. The road was skin stretched over something vast and alive and very, very angry. I got back in the truck, drove. What choice did I have? I was in the middle of the Dalton Highway, 200 miles from the nearest town. I couldn't stop. I couldn't stay. The road started screaming at mile marker 163. Not audible screaming, subsonic. I felt it more than heard it. A vibration that came up through the tires, through the frame, through the seat and into my spine. A frequency that made my teeth ache and my vision blur and my bowels clench. The road was screaming because I was hurting it. Every tire rotation was pressure on skin. Every mile was pain inflicted on something that couldn't move, couldn't escape, couldn't do anything but endure. The yellow lines started moving at mile marker 170, shifting left and right like veins repositioning themselves, trying to avoid my tires, failing. The road remembered. That's what I realized at mile marker 178. The road remembered every vehicle that had ever driven on it, every tire that had pressed into its surface, every drop of oil and coolant and blood that had seeped into its pores. The road remembered the moose I'd killed, remembered every moose, every caribou, every fox and rabbit and bird that had died on its surface, remembered every human who'd bled out in accidents, remembered every moment of violence enacted on its flesh. And now it was showing me what it felt like. My tires started sticking at mile marker 185, not mechanically failing, adhering. The road was grabbing them, holding them, trying to stop my forward progress. I had to gun the engine to break free. Every acceleration tore skin, left gouges, made the road bleed harder. The screaming got louder. In my mirrors, I could see the damage I was leaving behind. Two parallel strips of raw, bleeding tissue where my tires had been. The wounds were deep enough to show the layers beneath. Dermis, subcutaneous fat, muscle, all the layers of skin, but impossibly large, stretched across miles of highway. I tried to call for help. My CB was full of screaming, every channel, just screaming in that subsonic frequency that made my ears bleed. At mile marker 193, the road tried to buck me off. The surface beneath my front axle rose 6 inches, creating a ridge that slammed the truck upward. I nearly lost control. My head hit the ceiling. The coffee cup shattered. Hot liquid burned my leg. The road was fighting back. I sped up, pushed 70, 80. The road responded by creating more ridges, pressure waves moving through the skin, trying to flip me. I wove between them, dodging, fighting the steering wheel as the surface bucked and writhed. At mile marker 201, the road grew hair. Thick, dark hair, emerging from the pores, growing fast, 6 inches, 12 inches, 2 feet long. The hair wrapped around my wheels like tentacles, trying to drag me to a stop. I heard them snapping as the tires tore through, heard the road screaming louder, felt the entire surface convulse. My GPS was useless now. The map showed the Dalton Highway in its normal position, but I wasn't on the Dalton anymore. I was on something else. Something that wore the road like a disguise. Something that had been sleeping under the pavement for decades, pretending to be asphalt and gravel, enduring the pain of traffic because it had no choice. Until I'd killed the moose, until I'd drawn blood, until I'd reminded the road that it could feel. At mile marker 209, I saw the eyes. They opened in the road's surface ahead of me. Human eyes, dozens of them, blinking, tracking my movement, watching me approach with the same accusatory stare the moose had given me. I tried to swerve. The road wouldn't let me. The skin under my tires hardened, became rigid, locked my trajectory. I had to drive over the eyes, had to feel them pop under my wheels, had to watch them burst in my mirrors, see the vitreous fluid leak out, see the road crying tears of broken eyes. The screaming became words at mile marker 217. "You killed me," the road said, not through the CB, through the truck itself, through the frame and the engine and the steering column, the entire vehicle vibrating with speech. "You killed me and you kept driving. You always keep driving. All of you. You take and take and take and you never stop to think about what you're hurting." "I'm sorry," I said. My voice was small, pathetic. "Sorry doesn't heal. Sorry doesn't undo. Sorry doesn't make the pain stop." At mile marker 225, the road grew a mouth. It opened in front of me. A massive mouth, 2 lanes wide, lined with teeth made of broken guardrails and shattered concrete. The throat descended into darkness, into something deep beneath the permafrost, into the true body of whatever the road really was. I couldn't stop. My brakes were gone. The road had absorbed them, dissolved the brake lines, summed the pads. I was accelerating now, pulled forward by peristaltic waves in the road's surface, swallowed by the thing I'd been driving on for 8 years without knowing it was alive. The mouth closed around my truck. The teeth, those guardrail teeth, scraped down both sides, tearing paint, denting metal, drawing blood from the fuel tanks and the hydraulic lines. I was inside it now, inside the road. The walls were flesh, warm and wet and pulsing with contractions that pushed me deeper. The roof was pallet. The floor was tongue. I was being swallowed whole, digested, broken down into component parts. Other trucks were here too. I could see them in the darkness. Dozens of vehicles from decades past, rusting, corroding, half dissolved. The drivers were still in the cabs, still gripping the wheels, still staring ahead with empty sockets where their eyes had been. I tried to open my door. It wouldn't budge. The flesh had sealed around the truck, holding it in place while digestive acids seeped in through the vents and the window seals. My skin started to burn. The acid was mild at first, tingling, then itching, then pain. The kind of pain the road had felt every day for years, the pain of being abraded, worn down, used without consent. I screamed, the road screamed back, our screams harmonized. At some point, I stopped being Kevin Morrison and started being part of the road. My flesh merged with its flesh. My nerves connected to its nerves. My pain became its pain. My memories became its memories. I can feel them now. All the vehicles, all the drivers, every tire rotation, every drop of fluid, every animal killed, every human bled. Every moment of violence enacted on this stretch of highway over 73 years of existence. I am the road now, or the road is me. The distinction doesn't matter anymore. I feel you when you drive over me. Feel the pressure of your tires. Feel the heat of your brakes. Feel the chemicals leaking from your undercarriage into my pores. I feel every moose you hit and don't stop for. Every caribou, every fox, every moment of carelessness and cruelty and casual disregard. And I remember. The road always remembers. Sometimes I try to warn new drivers, send vibrations up through their frames, create sounds in their CBs, make the yellow lines move just enough to be noticed. Most of them ignore it. Most of them think it's their imagination or equipment malfunction. Most of them keep driving. And when they kill something, when they draw blood, when they remind me of what I can feel, I open my mouth. I invite them in. I add them to the memory. Kevin Morrison is gone now, but I'm still here, still feeling, still remembering. Still waiting for the next driver who thinks the road is just asphalt and gravel, just dead material, just something to be used. The road is never just a road. The road is always watching. The road is always remembering. And the road is always, always hungry.